All right, I'm back, guys. Um, Webcam, I guess, whatever the hell you call it. Um, yeah, I haven't covered Trump in a while, I guess. He's not that interesting. Just known fascist, you know. There's not much to go off of. We just know he's gonna win in 2024, and that's the problem. So, anyways, last time, you know, going to jail. Nothing happened out of that. You know, I've become way more black pilled on realizing that, like, no matter what you do, no matter what horrible thing you do, you could always just get out of it. You could just have any amount of money and you could get out of your horrible sins. Like, you just name it. I'm not naming it. You can think of the most horrible thing, like, you know, sex trafficking, I guess. But that's not even the worst thing. That's not being specific. But, anyways, seriously, there's money, like, covering up that all the stuff is happening, which, I guess I'll get to. Anyways, Trump got bail. Typical bullshit. All right. Uh, all right. So, I think this is just me skipping the gag order stuff because initially I had articles about that. Like, he's just saying so much shit and doing horrible shit. He's always doing, well, actually, he's always um, rallying, right? So he's got a lot of energy. It's just, it's just kind of sad that it's this type of energy. All right. Letter to the editor. Poison blood means poison heritage. All right. So I believe Donald Trump said in a recent interview that undocumented immigrants were, quote, poisoning the blood of our country, quote, end quote. This declaration echoes Trump's sentiment in regards to migrants from Africa. Trump furiously rebuked African migrants, calling them migrants from uh, expletive nations. Whoa, what? Wow. The article doesn't even want to, like, tell us. That's crazy. This use of language echoes white supremacists, and I'm sure Trump knows this. Such attitudes disqualify any person from the privilege of holding any office in our democracy. I think we've seen what our democracy has become as of lately. It's not, and Trump's getting away with it. As soon as Roe was taken away, seeing that in my lifetime and studying more and more and getting more invested in, like, the backstory and bodily autonomy issues. This is crazy. Like, he is plain and simple going to be president. All right. A democracy, any school-age person knows, represents a melting pot of international migration. All right, so I think, like, even back then, the melting pot wasn't totally in good faith about other people's cultures. It was about assimilating, which was, you know, take that as what you will. That can come with genocide. Um, Even if it's not bodies hitting the floor. Anyways, our nation's status of liberty doubles down on our greatest virtues, diversity. Oh, that's a short article. Well, alright. Moving on, I guess. I'm not surprised that Trump said that. Like, people were saying that it was, like, straight out of Hitler, and I tried looking that up, and I couldn't, I didn't really find much in term, like, maybe I didn't look hard enough, but seriously. Alright. Come on, article. What are you doing? Why was it all the way down there? Most of the time articles don't start in the middle. Like, what the hell? Okay. So, as usual, and we know January 6th wasn't the last of the main plots against democracy. So, it's a symbolic attack on our nation. It's not like an actual genocide that Joe Biden is allowing. So, obviously, I'm not saying that January 6th was even justified in any way and it wasn't good, but um, comparatively, uh, you know, it's not on the level. All right. Trump and allies plot revenge, Justice Department control in the second term. Advisors have also discussed deploying the military to quell potential unrest on Inauguration Day. Critics have called the ideas under consideration dangerous and unconstitutional. All right. Donald Trump and his allies have begun mapping out specific plans for using the federal government to punish critics and opponents should he win a second term, with the former president naming individuals he wants to investigate or prosecute, and his associates drafting plans to potentially invoke the Insurrection Act and his first days in office to allow him to deploy the military against civil demonstrations. Jesus Christ. My commentary on some of this is going to be rather limited because this is a little beyond me in terms of civics and, like, I know what happened, but sometimes these things are spoken in a way that isn't just so straightforward to the simple-minded, and I'm like, what? All right. In private, Trump has told advisors and friends in recent months that he wants the Justice Department to investigate one-time officials and allies who have become critical of his time in office, including his former Chief of Staff John F. Kelly and former Attorney General William P. Barr, as well as ex-attorney Ty Cobb and former Joint Chief of Staff Chairman General Mark A. Milley, according to people who have talked to him, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe private conversations. Trump has always talked of prosecuting officials at the FBI and Justice Department, and personal familiar with the matter said. Okay, so we all know that there's no privacy. Like, people are being hacked internationally from, like, China for all, like, this conversation, everything that's being, like, in national security documented is just, like, in a book somewhere being read casually, It's really that, like, scary. So, anyways, in public, Trump has vowed to appoint a special prosecutor, to quote, to go after President Biden and his family. The former president has frequently made corruption accusations against them and are not supported by available evidence. Okay, so yes, there's corruption in the Biden family and in Democrats abroad. Like, there's corruption in politics, but it's not to the level that Trump, like, did. Like, that's not something you can just do. So I guess there's a spectrum of corruption that you can do in politics, and Trump stepped over that line. And that's probably the gist of it, I'm not justifying what Trump did. Again, it's just, there is hypocrisy, but, it's just complex. And we don't want anyone's hypocrisy, including anyone's corruption. But, and I think that's what Trump's doing. He might know that the corruption, like, so, and it's just taking advantage and pointing out, like, how fragile everything is, how you can just talk through things. It seems that what he's doing. It's crazy. All right. To facilitate Trump's ability to direct Justice Department action, his associates have been drafting plans to dispense with 50 years of policy and practice and intended to shield criminal prosecutions from political considerations. Critics have called such ideas dangerous and unconstitutional. Quote, it would resemble Banana Republic if people came into office and started going after their opponents willy-nilly, end quote, said Saikrishna Prakash, a constitutional law professor of the University of Virginia who studied executive power. Quote, it's hardly something we should aspire to, end quote. Trump testifies in New York civil fraud trial. Live updates. Okay, so this is just another trial that he was at that I probably didn't cover at the time because I wasn't posting videos, so it's probably so much beyond this point in this article that, like, I believe that this is just, this is at least important because I posted something about this and I wanted to read something read this, but yeah, okay. Sorry, rambling. Much of the planning for the second term has been unofficially announced or outsourced to a partnership of right wing think tanks in Washington, dubbed Project 2025. The group is developing a plan to include draft executive orders that would deploy a military domestically under the Insurrection Act. According to a person involved in those conversations and internal communications reviewed by the Washington Post, the law, last updated in 1871, authorizes the president to deploy the military for domestic law enforcement. The proposal was identified in internal discussions as an immediate priority, the communications showed. In the final year of his presidency, some of Trump's supporters urged him to invoke the Insurrection Act to put down unrest after the murder of George Floyd in the summer of 2020, but he never did it. Trump has publicly expressed regret about not deploying more federal force and said he would not hesitate to do so in the future. Trump's campaign spokesman, Stephen Chung, did not answer questions about specific actions under discussion. Quote, President Trump is forced on crushing his opponent in the primary election and going to beat crooked Joe Biden, end quote, Chung said, and then goes on to say, President Trump has always stood for law and order and protecting the Constitution. No. No, he definitely has not. So, I think even if there are good points in the Constitution, like these people are just nitpicking and weaponizing what they want out of it. But in general, if there are good points in the Constitution, I feel like it's just a flaw in debating about democracy from the Constitution, like from hundreds of years ago. Like the originalism is a fallacy that I think should just be done away with. There should be other ways to talk about the Constitution, or maybe alter how we talk about this without invoking, because not every man was created equal. There's so much omissions, so it's just something we use as like false fake platitudes, and it's very sad. Like, I'm not saying like do away with everything and get rid of it. Like, I'm not about like tearing everything down. Like, that does worry some people, I guess. But yeah, people can do the both sides thing from the constitutional originalism by weaponing it for like invoking terrible shit. And then there's people that say, well, people give people rights via what the founding fathers said, which is bullshit, so. All right. The discussions underway reflect Trump's determination to harness the power of the presidency to enact revenge on those who have challenged or criticized him if he returns to the White House. The former president has frequently threatened to take punitive steps against his perceived enemies, arguing that doing so would be justified by the current prosecutions against him. Trump has claimed, without evidence, that the criminal charges he is facing, a total of 91 across 4 state and federal indictments, were made up to damage him politically. Quote, this is a third world country stuff. Arrest your opponents, Trump said at the campaign stop in New Hampshire in October, and goes on to say, and that means I can't do that too. Oh, it means I can do that too. Special Counsel Jack Smith, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and Biden have all said that Smith's prosecution decisions were made independently of the White House in accordance with department rules on special counsels. Trump, the clear polling leader in GOP race, has made retribution a central theme in his campaign, seeking to intertwine his own legal defense with the call for payback against perceived slights and offenses to right-wing Americans. He repeatedly tells his supporters that he is being persecuted on their behalf and holds out a 2024 victory as a shared redemption at their enemies' expense. Can you imagine if this is how like Bernie acted, like constantly fought to get back in and go against like dropping out and you know, I feel like it's just totally different to compare, I guess. I guess he had his own corruption and I don't know. It's a little weird that we have this dude who's willing to be corrupt just to call out the corruption and be like hiring people to bully people to get more votes. It's just insanity. And for all we know, Democrats are doing that too behind the scenes. Like I can see Hillary Clinton maybe doing that. I don't know. All right. He is going to go after people that have turned on him. It is unclear what alleged crimes or evidence Trump would claim to justify investigating his named targets. Kelly said he would expect Trump to investigate him because since his term as chief of staff ended, he has publicly criticized Trump, including by alleging that he called dead service members suckers. Kelly added, quote, "There is no question in my mind he is going to go after people that have turned on him." Barr, another Trump appointee turned critic, has contradicted the former president's false claims about the 2020 election and called him, quote, "a very petty individual who will always put his interests ahead of the country's," end quote. Asked about Trump's interest in prosecuting him, Barr deadpan, quote, "I'm quivering in my boots." So these people went along with it until it got so bad that it just looked worse to cover Trump. So this is just weird infighting. Quote, "Trump himself is more likely to rot in jail than anyone on his alleged list," said Cobb, who accused Trump of, quote, "stifling truth, making threats, and bullying weaklings into doing his bidding." Milley did not comment. Another modern president since Watergate scandal, when Richard Nixon tried to suppress the FBI's investigation into his campaign spying and sabotage against Democrats, have sought to separate politics from law enforcement. Presidents of both parties have imposed a White House policy restricting communications with prosecutors. Uh, An effect under the George W. Bush administration to remove U.S. attorneys for political reasons led to high-level resignations and criminal investigation. All right. So I think we get the overall gist here.